So first of all, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your knowledge with us during this conference. Let's kick off with Mike. What's happening right now with the volcano and the different openings, the different vents? Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. This is an amazing event, so thank you to Fournier in particular for making it possible for me to be here today. And I thank you also to all of the speakers, Jean-Martin, Lorenz, Gino, Frederick. Thank you so much, because I've learned a great deal, even more about volcanoes. I have a website, and apart from talking about gastronomy, I always try to have this kind of outreach, this educational element about seismic activity in Spain and on the islands. I think we all have a lot to learn, really, on these issues, because if we don't educate the population, then we'll have a big gap in knowledge. What's happening in La Palma could happen in Tenerife one day. We live on volcanic islands, much like Hawaii, Iceland, Sicily. And I think we must learn about our territory. We must know what to do if these things happen. And we often wait until the last moment to learn about these things. So it seems now, anyway, that in La Palma the volcano is calming down a little, and we hope that this trend will continue, and that the people that have suffered as a result of this volcano will start to recover their lives. So you mentioned education. I remember seeing one volcanologist talking about their training and the things that they need to study to be able to actually become real experts in this issue. And he said that this is something that isn't actually studied as a specific field. There aren't any degrees with the title volcanology. So it seems that people come from lots of different other fields, geology, for example. And from those fields, they become interested one day in volcanoes, and then they embark on their own personal journey. Yes, it's true that, well, in Palma, in La Palma, for instance, in 1951, there was another eruption. They don't happen that often, but when these things happen, then it sparks interest in people. And I have to say, I think, yes, tourism is a big part of our economy here, but we mustn't forget that we're volcanic islands. Hawaii have a completely different take on this. In schools, they study volcanoes. People know what to do if an earthquake happens, and I think we have a lot to learn. Lucy Jones is a real reference point. Dr. Lucy Jones from the Seoul Seismic Institute and Thomas Jordan, they carry out a simulation every year called the Big Shake. It takes place simultaneously in many different places around the world in the month of October, in locations where a big earthquake may happen. This is in California. And so I think we need to follow this model from California. We learn with each catastrophe, of course, but we need to focus more on prevention. The title of this talk, To Prevent is to Live, is to survive. We're going to talk to Andrés now, the manager of the sea salt farm at Fuencaliente. So your business is located in a very beautiful part of the island, and it's actually the location of the most recent volcanic activity on the island. So I'd like to know how you're affected, how you're being affected, how your business is being affected at the moment because of this volcanic eruption in La Palma. Well, first of all, thank you again for the invitation to take part in this event. I've learned a lot. Well, our business, of course, has suffered because a lot of ash fell on our land in the first week following the eruption. We lost 30% of this year's production, actually. And it's not the first time that we've been affected by a volcano. In 1971, my grandfather felt the effects of the eruption, and actually the whole salt farm was destroyed. Not by the lava, but by the ash. The lava actually stopped just a couple of 100 meters from the borders of our land. So my father, I wasn't around, I didn't experience that volcanic eruption, but my father told me that if there ever were another eruption, then I should be very careful about the ashes. And effectively, that was what caused the most damage. We are facing quite a complex reconstruction process ahead of us now. We've been in existence for 54 years now, and it's a family business. It's passed generation to generation, and once again, we're going to have to begin to rebuild our infrastructure and hopefully save the rest of the harvest this year. Of course, the uncertainty brought about by the pandemic is still very present. During the pandemic, we talked about reinventing ourselves, but now it's more a question of, rebuilding. And I suppose in the short term, I feel quite pessimistic. The salt farm was quite a well-visited area. We had a restaurant. We have a restaurant as well, a shop, and of course we're feeling a huge impact now. Our turnover is only 10% compared to what it was before these complicated times. We also are having challenges supplying our external markets. We don't only sell to local buyers, but we try to keep in mind that in the medium term, this will bring with it positive benefits, so we just need to hold on until that moment arrives. You said that in the year 1971, the lava almost hit your salt farm. I'm sure you were very young at the time, but do you have any memories of perhaps what your parents have told you about what happened during that eruption? Well, I was born in 77. My father was actually doing military service at that time, so it was my grandfather that's told me about what actually happened. And basically, they were convinced that the salt farm was going to be taken by the lava. And when they woke up in the morning, they saw that it had narrowly escaped. Actually, there are records from La Palma of that year that relate this story. And what happened in the past, of course, could happen again. Of course, our salt farm is located in quite a unique place. It's at the foothills of the Teneguía volcano. We have 2 water wells that use geothermal energy from the volcano from 2007 onwards. We were very aware that we're, right next door to this very active volcanic area. And I think that actually from this event onwards, there's going to be more simulations to train the local population so that they know what to do in case of a earthquake. I think this education is key so that people don't believe this fake news, so that they're fully aware of what's happening, and so that they're not taken by surprise as they were now. People really don't need to be afraid of volcanoes. We need to respect them, and we need to know how to live alongside them. We live right next to these volcanoes, and we must learn more about them. José Alberto Díaz from El Sitio restaurant. Good morning. So, of course, gastronomy has felt the impact of the volcano. Everyone's felt the effects of these events in their own field, and so perhaps you could talk to us about how you felt it, the effects. In this, in hospitality, tell us what changes you've noticed. Well, as Andres said, we went from having full restaurants, hotels with 100% occupancy, to around 30, maybe 40% occupation, and the same in the restaurant. We depend a great deal on local customers, and because of their personal circumstances, of course, they haven't been going out to eat so much, and tourists, of course, haven't been coming, so we've really suffered, actually. It seems like you've had to just press the pause button. We're just waiting for the volcano to stop erupting, and we know that after we will have an influx of tourism, and it will generate a lot of work. But what we need is a set of, regulations, a set of guidelines to prepare the island for this boom that will come. Being here in Lanzarote, I've realized, as Andres was saying, that we have a lot to improve. Our island, it's called the beautiful island. But we really need to develop it in a different way, and we need to improve our coexistence with this volcanic landscape. We weren't ready. We weren't prepared. The last eruption, I guess, was 50 years ago. I'm not even 50 years old, so it's quite natural that I wouldn't be, prepared for an eruption like this. I suppose in hindsight, it was obvious that we were going to have another eruption, but despite this, we were taken by surprise. So, as I say, islanders need to be better prepared, and we need to, harness more the resources that we have. If tourism is going well, then education should match this. They should go hand in hand. We need to coexist with these volcanoes. And if we do manage to improve this coexistence, then tourists will feel safer, I think, as well, better welcomed, because they will be better informed. I think this will be a real boost for our tourism industry, because visitors will feel that the locals know what they're talking about. And I think this is a good opportunity for us here. We have to look at everything, in combination, not in isolation. Of course, I'm deeply sorry for what's happened in La Palma. I personally have suffered. I've seen with my own eyes people who've lost everything, who had invested a great deal of money in building their lives there. And so I truly hope that we, once and for all, learn a lesson. Jose Alberto, tell us now about the rest of the island. Of course, the area that's directly affected by the volcano in the west of the island is, as I said before, it's like they've pressed the pause button. But how is the capital doing, the north, the east? Well, right now, the volcano is affecting 10% of the surface area of the island, so 90% is unaffected. In the Aridane Valley, well, apart from the Aridane Valley, there are areas of the island that are living normally. Of course, there is ash, there is some noise, but it's very safe to visit the island. And there, as I said, there are parts where you wouldn't even know that there was a volcano erupting. The problem is that 10% that has affected the Aridane Valley is the area with the highest population, with the biggest economic activity. It's really the heart of the island, and that's why we've seen that the consequences of this volcanic eruption are greater than the eruption in the 1970s in Teneguía, because in this area there were barely any people living there. This eruption in the 70s was really something amazing to go and see. Many people went. It didn't really cause any damage, let's say. But this time round, it's not just something amazing to go and see. It's something that's having a disastrous effect on people's lives, and people don't look at it as this amazing miracle of nature, this spectacle. They look at it as something destructive and sad. Yes, it's very close to my house, actually. The first couple of days I sat in my chair just staring at it, completely shocked, because, it really is a spectacle. But now I don't even want to see it anymore. I try not to look at it at all. So, has tourism been affected in these areas of the island that haven't been affected by the volcano? No, I'd say that actually they're doing even better than ever, in fact, because, as I said, even the people that live in the Aridane Valley, where the volcano is, when we have a day off, we go to the other parts of the island and we see that the restaurants are all full and things are booming. Mike, then, let's talk now about these famous ashes. This has come with the rain now. They've arrived at the same time. So do we need to collect this, to dispose of it in a specific way? Can you use it for anything? Can you recycle it? Is this, it seems like a complex issue. Yes, right now we're in this emergency phase. And in the plan, the emergency plan, we should have had a place designated to deposit this volcanic ash, to store it there. We know that this lapilli is full of minerals, so it's very useful for later agricultural use. But really, people don't know what they should be doing with it right now. Some people are throwing it into the drains, throwing it away there. But when it rains, it creates kind of a mass, and it blocks up all the drain system. has there been a big effect on crops, on harvests? As Jose Alberto said, you're located in, the most important banana plantation area of the island. It's probably the most important, in fact. Yes, the banana plantations have been hugely affected. We're actually trying to promote a campaign now to convince people that even if a banana doesn't look perfect on the outside, it doesn't mean that it's not perfect on the inside. And we have received some financial assistance in the Aridane Valley. We've been hugely affected with the problems with water supply caused by the volcano. I think the local authorities have actually acted quite quickly and they've come to our aid, but a great deal of land, of productive land, has been lost. The ash continues to fall and it continues to cause a great deal of damage. Do you think that Canary Island bananas still have a future ahead of them after this volcano? Well, I'm not too familiar with that sector, but I think so. We're still exporting the bananas. They're still on the shelves in the supermarkets. And I think it's actually perhaps helped to promote the bananas indirectly, all of this. Exports in recent months have actually risen. Citizens have really increase their support for our local products. The national lottery tickets that we sell at Christmas time the sales of these tickets in La Palma have shot up enormously. In the news, when it came out that 30% of production was lost of bananas, something similar happened in supermarkets during the pandemic when everyone started to buy toilet paper. Well, they did the same thing with our bananas. People really jumped into action to try and harvest all of the bananas that they could to be able to store them for later export. But there really has, as I say, been huge local support, and this has increased, the awareness of our local products even more. So let's talk about salt now. How has your salt been affected by the ash? And the salt that has been affected by the ash, can you wash it? Can you process it to be able to use it? Well, I was saying maybe we can just sell black salt. Actually, we heard a lot about, salt from Hawaii and Iceland, with this ash inside it, yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Perhaps it's an idea worth considering, but I think that these volcanic eruptions force us to reinvent ourselves and try and, continue however we can. Who knows what might happen with our local products in the future? Perhaps it will open up a whole host of other opportunities. I think for everything that a volcano takes away from us, it also gives us a great deal back. Well, we've heard a lot about how important prevention is, and I think you're quite right, given the fact that we live on volcanic islands. Jose Alberto, have you noticed a problem with supplies on the island? Planes often aren't able to land, boats aren't able to dock. Yes. I mean, living in an island, supplies are quite challenging anyway, we're not one of the main islands in the Canaries with the capital cities. So all products that are sent to the island always take that little bit longer. And of course, the airport has been closed now for 8 days, I think. So, of course, inevitably, this has had an effect on our supplies. And it seems that La Palma has always been quite self-sufficient with its own products. Yes, but we don't have enough. Of course, our raw materials, our core ingredients are of high quality, and it's a pleasure to be able to, consume our own locally grown products, but it's not enough quantity. We need to import. Andres, for instance, was saying to me earlier that in order to guarantee supply of his, regular producers of vegetables, he's had to find other options. But the particular type of variety of products that you usually order often aren't available with particular producers, so you have to, widen your search. And this is all to do with what we said at the very beginning. I just think we're not ready. We're not prepared to survive in these circumstances. I went to see an estate once, and I was quite envious, actually, of everything that they had. This estate, in fact, is really quite enviable, with a variety of crops that are on offer. Avocados are being planted more, and this is profitable, but I think we need to continue to diversify the crops that we grow. Well, just one more thing then, before we finish. What I'd like is for you to share your personal thoughts, your personal reflections on what you're going through right now in La Palma, and how you see the future panning out. Well, honestly, for me, I think, of course, an eruption won't last forever. It will stop at some point, and we will begin to continue rebuilding our lives. I would like to send my love from the bottom of my heart to the people of La Palma and remind them that after every catastrophe, we must go through this process of rebuilding. But for now, I give you my full support, and please, be safe in the knowledge that we will rebuild step by step. And as I always say on my website, prevention is the key to coexisting with these volcanoes. We must be aware of our past to prepare for the future. Andres, well, I would say, of course, the main thing is that volcanoes don't last forever, as we said. And so I think now is actually the time to start to envisage this next step. And remember that the volcano will bring with it positive effects. We need to just get through this last moments and prepare for the change. I think we're going to have new, very necessary infrastructure that will bring with it great change on the island. I hope that people will stop leaving the island. I know many people are abandoning it because they are so, pessimistic about the future, and I hope that comes to an end. I hope people stay on the island, and I would like to invite all of you to come and visit us whenever you want to see how it's possible to coexist with a volcano, even when it is erupting. We hope to see you all there one day. Jose Alberto, then, let's end with you. Well, my final comments, my personal comments, would be that, well, I think no one on La Palma was expecting this, even though we possibly should have been. I think it's changed our lives completely because, as I say, nobody really could have even imagined what this experience would be like. You have to see it to believe it. And I feel really quite grateful for the solidarity that the people have demonstrated. We felt this support from the rest of the world. And now I think we need to try and be positive about the future, to try and create a new vision. And as Andrea said, we need people to come and see us and visit and help us now more than ever, because we're really going to need your support. Well, that's the final comments for today. And in this round table, it's clear that our thoughts, the thoughts of all of us, are with La Palma, not just in the Canary Islands, but the entire world. And so let's keep our fingers crossed that it won't last much longer and La Palma can get back to normal. Thank you very much. A big round of applause for our speakers and for La Palma Island.